Welcome, Georgia. We've just opened the recording and we're just we've just started the recording and we're opening the room for participants to join in just a few seconds. Welcome to those that have already joined. We're just going to wait another minute or two to allow people to enter the room with us before we get started. In the meantime, if you want to let us know where you're dialing in from and your area of expertise, that would be great. Thank you. You can do that in the chat also, by the way. Okay, I think we'll start easing into this webinar and still allow other people to trickle in. So, welcome everyone. My name is Valerie Liedekerke. I'm from the Atlantic International Research Center. I'm the coordinator of the Blue Mission Atlantic and Arctic Coordination and Support Action Hub for the EU Mission Ocean and Waters. So today we have the pleasure of hosting the EU Mission Ocean OTTERS project, which aims to promote societal transformation for marine and freshwater stewardship through scaling up citizen science. We welcome today 5 speakers representing the American University of Armenia, the Okopian Center, University of Siena, as well as Earthwatch Europe, Democritus University of Trieste, NUCLIO, and 21st Century Consultancy. While I'm introducing the speakers, if you want to, please add your names, affiliation, current location in the chat. That helps our speakers to identify the audience and be able to maybe tailor a bit more the content to the audience. I'm going to jump into the presentations or introducing the speakers, I'm going to say. So first we'll have Garabet, and I apologize for the pronunciation of these names, so I'm not very familiar. Kazanjian, hopefully, is an assistant professor at the American University of Armenia and a lead aquatic researcher at the American University Armenian Okopian Center for the Environment. He holds an MS in fisheries ecology and a PhD in limnology from Humboldt University of Berlin. Kazanjian's research interests cover assessing water quality, primary production, and carbon sequestration in aquatic ecosystems, as well as applying innovative tools and participatory approaches in watershed management and policy advancement. Currently, he is coordinating the Horizon Europe OTTERS project, as well as leading the development of the Iliad Policy Impact Facility and the Iliad Academy within the Horizon 2020 Iliad Digital Twin of the Ocean project. Now we'll move on to Stephen Rosell, who is a senior researcher lead at Earthwatch Europe and an associate professor at the University of Siena in Italy. He leads global citizen science programs working on healthy soils and freshwaters in partnership with communities, businesses, regulatory and research stakeholders. He is active in programs in more than 30 countries in Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas, and has coordinated international research exploring solutions to global and local challenges and helping local communities to improve the resilience of their local environment. Next, we have Georgios Silios, who is a professor at the Demokritis University of Trieste, Department of Environmental Engineering at Xanthi, Greece. Presently, he is the director of the Laboratory of Ecological Engineering and Technology. He is a physical oceanographer by training, with long experience in the coordination of European and nationally funded research projects. Overall, he has coordinated 41 research projects. He has been a member of the UN Group of Experts for the second assessment of the global ocean status trends and challenges, and external advisors to the Hellenic Ministry of Environment on MSFD implementation. He is the co-founder and chairman of the spin-off company Embryo, applying precision irrigation at farm level using satellite images, observations from drones, soil and moisture sensors, and simulations of water balance and management. Next, we have Priscila Doran, has a postgraduate degree in psychology and education and an MS degree in human biology and environment and a degree in biology. She is a certified teacher, trainer in Portugal in the areas of educational psychology, biology, and environmental sciences. She has been a member of NUCLIO since 2011, where she is part of the management board, leading teams and coordinating projects related to innovation in education. He coordinates projects related to several areas of education. And our last speaker is Laura Gavrilut, is a management professional with a strong track record structuring and delivering successful EU-funded innovation projects. She is currently managing the day-to-day communication activities for OTTERS. Laura holds a Master of Science in Information Networking from the Information Networking Institute from Carnegie Mellon University, and a Bachelor in Computer Science from the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Information Technology from the University of Oradea, Romania. Now I pass it over to Garabet, who will start us off. And we ask that participants please use the Q&A to pose questions, which we will be monitoring during the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie, for that nice and long introduction. And that was not a bad effort at pronouncing the name. It's pretty much accurate. So yes, thank you for this opportunity to host us today, so we can talk a bit about our project, which was launched earlier last year. So it's a year and a half almost into the project, and we are entering the last sprint phase, the last year of the project, where we have a lot of things still to accomplish. And we'd like to take also this opportunity to reach out to any potential similar efforts which are happening within the mission ocean and beyond, for anyone who wants to collaborate and synergize efforts into achieving the objectives of the mission, and also increasing the impact of citizen science projects, particularly in the water domain. So to start with, maybe a bit talk about the background of why OTTERS was established as a project. On one hand, we see citizen science projects growing exponentially, especially within the last few years. If you see this figure here from Carlos Garcia Soto and colleagues, and this graph is already a few years old now, it encompasses projects till 2017, and I think the trend has continued since then. We see this massive boom of citizen science projects happening, and this is only in the North Sea area. So this is replicated in a lot of different areas within Europe and beyond. And with growing number of citizen science projects that we've seen recently, we are also now able to capture very diverse types of data. So it's not only about water quality or plastic pollution, etc., The scope is pretty broad. The areas that are being covered are pretty broad. Some of the very inaccessible areas before to academia or for policy compliance are now being reached by citizens. So the amount of data produced is really multiplying very quickly. On the other hand, these types of data are also now we've seen being used for complementing a lot of new innovative approaches. For instance, citizen science data could be very well used to validate remote sensing data or Copernicus data. This is something very positive, and we've seen implemented very well in different projects. And with this boom of citizen science projects, we've now also seen more serious commitment by policymakers, where we've heard several remarks within the last 2 years from the European Commission and beyond, where they want to see about 1/5 or quarter of all marine data produced coming from citizen sources. So all of these are very positives that support the growth of citizen science projects. However, there are also some challenges with this very rapid boom in citizen science projects. On one hand, the majority of the projects we've seen, at least till very recently, they've been very small scale. They're run by small academic units or by NGOs, civil society organizations. And as such, they're very fragmented in the way they operate. With this fragmentation, we also see a lot of different methods and standards being used, which result in the data not being interoperable and sometimes not even being comparable when we're talking about scientific data, because they've used very different, very diverse and comparable methods. With this diversity and lack of standards, there's also a lot of lack of trust in the data quality, which kind of is a big obstacle in the usage of this data, specifically for policy, but also sometimes we've seen similarly in academia or in research. Data not being used obviously is very negative, but sometimes we also see that data could be lost because a lot of these projects and efforts are oftentimes tied to projects, and when the project funding is over, then the whole effort kind of dissipates into air. And sometimes if there are not good standards or best practices used in data management and making the data public, sometimes that data is on somebody's hard drive or computer, and oftentimes it's no longer accessible to everybody else. With projects ending abruptly when the funding is over, this also leads to more negative impacts within citizens, because oftentimes we've heard feedback from demotivated citizens that they did a lot of effort, but all of a sudden the project ended. There was no continuity, no sustainability of these efforts. And also sometimes they feel there's not a lot of impact of their works. They're putting in a lot of effort, but they're not seeing results translated to policies or otherwise. So this demotivates citizens and is a barrier towards long-term continuation of efforts. So overall, this picture kind of shows that there should be some sort of, there's a gap between this smaller scale localized efforts and overall, we're talking about European policies or data repositories like EMOTNet or bigger projects even like Digital Twins of the Ocean. How to translate and how to synergize all of these efforts from the small scale, coordinate them, standardize them, and ensure the data flow from the lower level efforts towards the European policies and bigger projects like Digital Twins. There needs to be a middle layer that can take care of that. Enter OTTERS, which is, as Valerie already said, is a project for social transformation for water stewardship through scaling up of citizen science. It's an EU mission ocean coordination and support action. It started earlier last year. It will go for another year, and it's funded by the European Commission of up to about 1 million euros. The OTTERS Consortium is made up of 12 partners, ranging from different geographic distributions within Europe and surrounding countries. And it encompasses universities, different research institutions, and NGOs and citizen science organizations. You can see the geographic distribution and the organizations involved in the consortium on this slide. Moving forward, what does OTTERS try to achieve and how does it try to achieve? So this is kind of the roadmap as we see it towards scaling up of citizen science. On one hand, as I mentioned, to start with, because there are a lot of different methods of measuring and capturing data, managing that data, transferring that data, etc., we want to promote the best practices and common standards. So we've organized a number of workshops, webinars, and discussions towards promoting or agreeing on first some of the best practices, and then promoting these best practices so that they could be adopted by a number of the projects which are ongoing, but also the projects that are now to start. We will develop a toolkit and a guideline. These are the standards that we kind of advise you to follow, and then everything will be easier down the line in terms of scaling it up. On the other hand, as I mentioned, a lot of the projects are limited in terms of funding and time. And oftentimes, as I said, when the funding is over, these projects tend to stop. And sometimes all the effort kind of disappears and crumbles. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to cluster efforts. We're looking into regional, different regional areas and different thematic zones within the water domain. And we want to cluster efforts. We want to reach out to different ongoing projects, say, for marine pollution or water quality and what have you. And we want to design regional umbrella campaigns which would join a lot of these efforts, help them encourage organizing joint efforts, data and experience sharing, regional awareness of, what happens, what I do here will have effect on downstream communities and beyond, all the way to the ocean. And in a way, offer this middle layer that I described earlier, which is lacking. And then third of all, we don't want to just capture data, but we want to increase the impact of these projects by changing the hearts and minds of the citizens. So this happens by increasing citizen awareness and ocean literacy, but also promoting water stewardship so that they adopt these water ecosystems as their own. They participate in the decision-making and the data analysis, and they become a lot more active in a way in the democratization of the decision. So the Spring-to-Sea campaigns that I described already, we did a mapping of ongoing citizen science efforts in the water domain, and accordingly, we wanted to start in 3 pilot areas, namely Portugal, Italy, and Armenia. We chose these sites based on the availability of partners within the consortium that could lead efforts in these areas, but also because we had a very wide spectrum of available citizen science in these areas. On one hand, we had a lot of things happening in Italy and very little happening in Armenia, and we wanted to develop very different toolkits that could be then adopted in different places and replicated throughout Europe. So we wanted to tackle different topics, and then my colleagues in a bit will talk a bit about these toolkits that are being produced later on during the presentations. And we wanted to adopt also the strategy of what you can do if there's a lot of efforts around you, and what you can do if there's not much around and you want to start the process yourselves. So the idea is to develop these blueprints, and also throughout our workshops and co-design processes, we wanted to see what's working well, what's not working, and offer the best practices towards upcoming campaigns that want to replicate these regional umbrella campaigns in their neighborhoods. So to summarize, before I give the floor to my colleagues, what would be the outcomes of the OTTERS project? Like I said, we're working a lot on standardization of approaches, and these entail a lot of different things. It entails technical aspects of data collection and management. It entails ethical and legal considerations, and we've had already a number of webinars on all of these topics before. So if you're interested to delve deeper into, say, legal issues, ethical issues, use of AI in citizen science, and exploitation with regards to a lot of different innovative tools like digital twins, you can check our website for the recordings of these past events. A lot of the workshops we've organized and the upcoming pilot projects that we're going to do are going to help us evaluate the effectiveness of these projects. Like I said, what's working, what's not working, and assess the best practices that we want to promote. These best practices will be summarized within guidebooks, toolkits, that we will make it available on our website, but also on the European Citizen Science Association's website, and a citizen science hub that we're designing and developing. But also it will be part of trainings that we're offering to teachers, summer schools that we're organizing. The upcoming one is very soon. Priscila will talk a bit about this, and online courses and MOOCs that we will make available in the upcoming year. And altogether, all of the testing will be in this umbrella cross-community Spring-to-Sea stewardship campaigns, as I mentioned, where we would even better the guidebooks and the toolkits, add maybe components and feedback we receive throughout, and at the end, make all of this freely available and accessible to everyone on the European Citizen Science Association's website. That's it from my part. Now I will give the floor to Stephen and Georgios to talk a bit about upscaling the citizen science in freshwater and marine domains, respectively, and what this means to the different policy implications within each domain. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Garabet. So following the exactly what Garabet was just mentioning, I'm going to start from the spring side. So we're going to start from the freshwater side, freshwater citizen science, and explore what OTTERS has been doing and what it's where it's going. So there's lots of freshwater ecosystems out there. It's the ecosystem services provided by freshwater and its related environment are huge and extremely important. So it's no wonder that, next, Garabet, that there's lots of citizen science programs out there. So this is just a few that cover largely focused on water quality, on environmental quality, on biodiversity in freshwaters across Europe and across the globe. There's so many programs out there, but they're also, as Garabet was doing, generating databases and information that isn't necessarily going in a direction of supporting national or international frameworks. So there's two major international frameworks for freshwater. There's the Water Framework Directive in Europe, which all 27 countries in Europe are following or attempting to follow. And then, of course, there's the UN Sustainable Development Goals, in particular Goal 6, which is focused on freshwater. As is occurring in many places in Europe and across the globe, or in particular in places where there's been a cut in funding for regulatory agencies, for monitoring agencies. You can see the graph on the left. This is in the UK, where the blue line is what agencies, the agency monitoring in one particular river catchment, and the green line is citizen science. So citizen scientists from 2016 on are gathering more information than the actual agencies. And this is important. This is important because the citizen scientists are using robust methods, data that is very comparable and complementary to the agency, but oftentimes these things are not being taken on board. And the result, as far as in Europe is concerned, is that we don't have as much information as we should have. And people are aware and citizens are aware, and it's become a political issue. And in general, you can see the chart in the middle, the amount of water bodies that are in good shape compared to bad shape has quite a range, but some of the largest countries in Europe have pretty poor situations. So there's lots of awareness. There's citizen science is moving forward. And what we're trying to do within OTTERS is put it in a position where these multiple projects, multiple programs can be put together and be complementary to help face the challenges of the Water Framework Directive and get communities and citizen scientists involved. Next. If we look at a larger scale, there's the Sustainable Development Goals. And the Sustainable Development Goal 6 is that focused on freshwater. And here you have a map from the most recent reporting. And you can see that the number, so the map shows in different colors the amount of water bodies that are being monitored or that have some data. And that data then being reported to the United Nations GEMS, Global Environmental Monitoring Program. So you can see there's quite a range, and you can see that there's lots of countries that aren't reporting anything, probably because they have so limited monitoring that they're not ready to report it yet. So citizen scientists again can play a major role in this. And in fact, in the last reporting, 2023 reporting, 2 countries integrated citizen science data together with their regulatory data and reported that as part of SDG Indicator 632. So we're moving in the right direction. We've demonstrated citizen science can generate data that will be complementary and can be used in international reporting. We're just trying to work towards a standardization and data integration that this can be used on a much larger scale. Next, please. So back to our many projects. So how do we take those steps to move things forward? Well, a first step is, Garabet, is comparing what's being measured and how they can be, and how citizen scientists can complement the data or add to the data that's being measured to meet the framework directive or SDG 632. You can see there's lots of complementarities here. And if you've done citizen science in freshwater or in aquatic environments, you'll know that some of these things are relatively easy to measure, but a lot of these things are more complicated. So we have to focus on those things where the technology, the cost, the safety, the capacity of citizen scientists is at a level where they can report robust data that can be used for either or both of these indicators. Garabet. The first step, and Garabet mentioned this before, is to make sure that the data can be aggregated. So we have different programs generating data that may be on the same component, the same parameter, but they may be doing it in slightly different methods. They may be sending data obviously to different databases. So what we need to do is set up a way that different data streams can be put together, and they can be put together in a robust manner, which is going to be, which requires intercalibration, which requires a standardization of metadata, of methods definition, and the efforts in the OTTERS program are complementary to what other programs are also looking at, and whether that's international PPSR or other European projects like OS for Clouds and More for Nature or Monocle or others that are trying to set up the metadata, the data set requirements necessary to get this data to be aggregatable or comparable. And then we're making additional efforts to, that's good, we're making additional efforts to make sure that each one of these programs follows a standard guide. So we're not saying it's important that to leave programs the capacity to monitoring what they see is most important. Citizen science projects, the ones that last beyond the initial funding, are the ones that are generated from the bottom, generated locally. So what a priority is locally needs to be part of what the long-term goal of the program is. But what we're trying to do is develop methods that can be standardized. So what can every program, if you're thinking of starting a citizen science program for a local river or a local lake or whatever, what would be the structure that this citizen science program should have from the point of view of accuracy, precision? What are the quality assurance approaches that are necessary? What kind of training? So the more information that we bring together, the more structure that we give to this, the more possibility we have of being able to get this information in a complementary manner, in an integrated manner, and use that information, or at least push the agencies to use that information for river basin management, as well as for reporting to both international and European goals. So we're going in that direction, and we've got some structure set up. There was a really good workshop in Vienna where we had a whole bunch of experts and people who are directly managing and running citizen science programs on freshwater come together and talk about what are the requirements that we really need to come up with a standardized and shared approach. So what can you do? Well, the fact that you're here is very good. There's many ways for you can get involved. The European Citizen Science Association has just created an aquatic ecosystems and citizen science program, so you can join it and you can contribute and you can add your voice to what's happening in the efforts to put this information together. We're also working on a white paper, and that's focused on freshwater, focused on the Water Framework Directive and SDGs, and how to incentivize collaboration with environmental regulators. If any of you have had an experience working with environmental regulators, they're very resistant to using citizen science, but once they've bought in, they can't get enough of it. So if you're interested, or also your contribution to the white paper would be great. Forward. On an international level, there's the World Water Quality Alliance that assembles different projects and puts people together in a series of meetings. There's a technical brief that was produced by the Alliance as well as by GEMS Water that's focused on how citizen science can be used to improve freshwater quality, focusing again on SDG goal 632. There will be a conference next year in the Netherlands in June focused on citizen science for water. So I invite you to keep your whatever Twitter, TikTok, or whatever alive and to gather information on that, or you can send a message to me or anyone else from the OTTERS team. And we can we'd love to hear from you as the OTTERS team to hear your ideas and thoughts. So pass over to Georgios to talk about marine. So we're leaving the rivers and now diving into the deep water of the sea. Over to you, George.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Garabet. I will move you now to the sea, to the marine environment, and this is the spring to the coast concept. So citizen science is also present in the marine environment, but in the marine environment, we in the European Union, we have the main policy tool, which is the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, a policy tool which obliges member states to monitor the marine waters very regularly in 6-year cycles and to collect data on, as you can see, 11 main descriptors and a series of sub-descriptors, criteria as they are called, and based on which the European waters are classified in good or non-good state, environmental state. On the other hand, we have the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and we are now focused in the marine environment in SDG 14, which is referring to life underwater. So there are several targets in SDG 14, like the reduction of marine pollution, protection of the ecosystems, but also research and education. Next, please. So in OTTERS, what we initially did was to try to ask the question whether citizen science can complement the official monitoring data that are collected by the various authorities in the framework of MSRD and improve this monitoring and complement the monitoring that is made, which is carried out by the authorities, the official authorities for each member state. So we have seen that through this review that there are several efforts, several initiatives which complement the work which is done on descriptors 1 and 2 on biodiversity or in alien species, and also relevant to SDG 14.2 on monitoring coastal flora and fauna. Then we have the use of sailing boats and sampling nets for the water pollution, which is these data are relevant to the descriptor 8 and descriptor 10, but also on the SDG 14.1. And then we have some genetic analysis, DNA and RNA analysis kits, very simple to use. And the data that are collected are relevant to descriptor 1 biodiversity, but also on 14A. Next, please. In parallel, we have other efforts, like, as you can see here, the work of small diver teams, which teams monitor the conditions of Posidonia oceanica meadows, which are again relevant to the descriptor 6 on the seafloor integrity and also to SDG 14.2. Other citizen science projects work with manta trawl net, which is a net for the collection of microplastics, again relevant to description 10 on marine litter and SDG 14.1, while there is a novel project which collects data on acidity, on pH data with very simple devices, And again, this is relevant to descriptor 5 and 7 and also to SDG 14.3. Next, please. So out of this review, we have in fact collected more than 100 publications. We have seen that, and we have produced the first white paper on the marine environment. We have seen that most of the works, or the scientific works, which is published in scientific literature, refers to the contribution of citizen science to descriptor 1, which is on biodiversity, but also to the contribution of descriptor 10, which is on marine litter. And you can see here the bubbles showing, and the purple bubbles are referring to the descriptor 10 and the various descriptors and sub-descriptors. So we have 10C1, which is the beach litter, and 10C2, which is the litter at the sea bottom. Let's move to the next one, please. So, as I said earlier, in citizen science, most of the work is done by citizens working on the beach, where they collect a lot of litter, a lot of rubbish from the beach environment, and they try really to classify this data and to not only clean the beach, but also to produce data that are made available to the scientists. And of course, this is a worldwide problem, and we see how citizen science and the various networks and NGOs can really contribute to provide the committed citizens and other stakeholders to the collection of data on marine litter pollution and train people on this global issue. Next, please. So citizen science can act as a tool to engage people to increase their awareness on the marine litter problem, and we see several initiatives like the sustainable coastlines or the databases which are built in the framework of litter intelligence. And this again gives us a direction to the SDG goals, providing data which are accurate, which are timely and comprehensive. And from the analysis we have done, we have seen that citizen science and citizen observatory data could contribute up to 33% to the SDG indicators. Next, please, Garabet. In terms of the various sub-indicators, we see here that 10.1 refers to the litter on the beach, 10.2 on litter at the sea and ingested litter, and 10.3 on the microplastics, on the microparticles and nanoparticles. And of course, we can see here the impacts on the environment and the biota. Next, please. Here you see that citizen science and professional monitoring systems are not very far away, so many areas have been covered by both the authorities but also the citizen science groups. And there are several studies which show this complementarity and the fact that citizen science can really help professional scientists to create a better understanding about the problems that they are studying. And on the right-hand side, you see the Open Litter Map, which is a tool that gives now one of the modern tools, which gives the opportunity to develop your own WebGIS as long as your data are standardized. So you see that we are using Amazon Web Services to create open litter maps and to map the data from citizen science projects to all over the world. This standardization means that we have to see which are the standards available and how we can organize our data in order to make them available to the broader audience. So you see here, for example, the various standards. For the beach litter, we have UNEP standards, OSPAR, MCS, Slovenia standards, and ICCs. There are several standards that we have identified through this review. And if we move to the next one, I will focus on the standards which are proposed by the Citizen Science Association. And this is a standard which is divided in three parts. One is to develop the project metadata model, which of course refers to the project which in the framework of which the survey takes place. Then we have the dataset metadata model, which refers to the survey data and metadata. And finally, we have the observation data model, which again give us the data that are collected within the survey of each project. Let's move to the next. And here you see the European adopted standard, which, as you can see, is given by the JRC technical reports. There is a report referring to the joint list of litter categories for marine microlitter monitoring. And IMODNet and JRC have adopted the CDataNet standards. The CDataNet standard comprises of 4 different data and metadata standards. You see the survey metadata, the beach metadata, the litter data, and the stranded and dead animals data. I'm showing you here the first survey metadata that you can see, where we report which is the survey code and why we are doing this particular survey, which are the coordinates, etc. Let's move to the next. Here is the beach metadata, where we refer to the characteristics of the beach. And finally, we have the litter data, where we report the data that we have collected through this survey. As a conclusion, I would say that it's obvious that citizen science can be a major contributor to the support of the efforts of MSFD in all EU countries. And of course, we need to standardize this data. And this is why OTTERS is trying really to achieve. Also, in parallel to the SDG indicators on, for example, 14.11b on plastic debris density. For the marine litter case, it is obvious that most citizen science projects use different protocols, various protocols to collect and report the data. So there is a clear need to standardize this data and the data and the metadata in a way that they become interoperable, intercomparable, and they have an advanced data quality. Thank you.
So it's my turn. I'm going to share my screen, just a second. Oops, now I can find it. Okay, can everyone see my presentation?
We see it in presentation format, so maybe.
Let's see a presentation format. Well, I have tested this before and it was fine. I'll try again. Okay, now you see it right.
Oh.
Okay, so my turn. My name is Priscila. Very nice to meet you all. I have been very well introduced already, so I will not do it again. I will just say that in this presentation, I'm going to give you a little bit of context of why integrating citizen science in education is important, both for education and for citizen science. And I'm going to show you some of the initial findings we have had from the engagement activities in Portugal. So if we think about it, education many, many years ago probably looked something like this. Students learned through their full engagement in their community, and while they were learning, they were actually contributing actively to their society. But then society kind of evolved, and we developed this whole other educational system that was dedicated to the Industrial Revolution, where students go to school, they are closed within 4 walls, learning everything they need to learn so that they are prepared for their future jobs. And that actually was very good in the Industrial Revolution. We knew exactly what jobs they were going to have, so it worked really well. But you know, Earth continues to evolve. Now we have computers and smartphones and tablets. We have a million social media platforms. We have search engines, and even worse, we have OpenAI now that is available for everyone and makes us rethink if this whole educational model is still suitable for the 21st century or not. Because now if we think about it, what jobs? You know, how do we even know what jobs our kids are going to take in the future? We don't even know what jobs are going to exist when the kids that are going to school now will exist when the schools that are going to school now come out of school, what jobs will actually exist. We have no idea. The world is evolving too fast for us to know. So this educational model has to be rethought. It's not working anymore. And you know, the fact that we have OpenAI and we have Google and other search engines has a lot of pros. You know, it makes education much easier. It allows us to innovate and to adjust education to the actual needs of the 21st century. But it also has some cons. You know, all the information is available online. It's not just the valid information. It's not just the scientific information. And obviously, these images are just a joke, like how dinosaurs got extinct. You know, if this was a flat Earth, it was like a catapult effect. But just to say that there is a lot of people right now thinking that the Earth is actually flat. And this means that education has never been more important. You know, we don't have to question the role of education. We just have to question how education is delivered. And if we ask students what they feel about their education, some very big studies with a lot of students from a lot of countries actually show us that students feel that they are not getting prepared for their future through their school education. And if they could change one thing about their education, it would be to acquire more skills to their future. So how can we solve this? Do we actually have the power to do so? Yes, of course we have, and there are many ways, and of course focusing on many ways is always the solution. But citizen science is a very strong way to solve this problem. Why? Because it brings students closer to the contemporary problems that exist in the world. It fosters not only the deep understanding of science, but to trust science and to understand what actually is science and what is not science. It promotes the active learning of their school curriculum. So instead of just learning from laptops or textbooks, they can actually apply what they have learned in the field while contributing to their community and to their society. So it brings meaning to the learning process. It also promotes several life competencies like critical thinking and problem solving and creativity and a million other competencies that are very important for them to be prepared for a very uncertain future. And most of all, because it motivates action towards the most relevant problems in our society. It helps them to believe that they can actually do something about it. It helps to foster active citizenship. But we should also look on the other side. Like, schools are obviously the best way to promote competencies and give a better education to students. But can this also be a win for citizen science? It actually can, because schools can become and can act as very powerful hubs for community development. I don't know if you are aware, but in statistics from 2021, like 3 years ago, 20% of the European population was represented by students. This means that 91 million people in Europe are students. And we usually talk about education and students like an investment in the future. But maybe we have to stop doing this because students are here now and they have brilliant ideas now and they can contribute now. And if we give them the chance, usually they actually kind of surprise a lot with their ideas. So schools can do a lot for citizen science. And my colleagues have already explained what citizen science is and the contribution. So this is actually a very, very important awareness that schools can be key in achieving many of the goals that we want for citizen science. They can not only contribute to generate more data, but also to give new ideas and solutions. They can play a significant role in bringing awareness to the community so that we don't have citizen science campaigns that only collect data, but they can also enlighten citizens about how to change their own habits. And students are amazing agents of change for their communities. Schools can also contribute to the sustainability of citizen science projects, because if they are integrated as regular part of their activities, they will keep on using the citizen science campaigns, and they can also, you know, invest in collecting more schools to participate and more members of the community. And they are amazing co-creators. So in OTTERS, for example, we are involving them in the co-creation of a roadmap to integrate citizen science into education. If citizen science is also meant for citizens, there's nothing like co-creating the campaigns with them to know how they can actually contribute and make them more effective. So we have started doing these presentations, these engagement activities in Portugal. We aim to do them in many other countries, but we have done in Portugal the first one. We did an online teacher training that actually worked for the development, the professional development of the teachers. We had 131 participants from many places of Portugal, as you can see in that map. And we also had one teacher from Portugal and one from Cape Verde, which was really nice to have them. So we discussed a little bit about the importance of water, we reflected about the human impact on water, and we invited them to use this platform that is called the Beat the Microbead, which is really fun to use and I think everyone should use, that helps us to analyze the content of microplastics in our personal cosmetics. So I wasn't aware that many of the organic products that I use, for example, contain a lot of microplastics. And it's a nice way to engage the minds and the hearts of educators. And then we asked them if they knew what citizen science was. Many of them said yes, but then when we asked them to define what citizen science is, most people answered that it is respecting each other, respecting nature, it is community involvement, it is awareness, and the word veganism even appeared once. So this gives us some light to the fact that teachers are not fully aware of what citizen science is, and there is some work to be done here to help them gain more awareness of what it is and the power that it might have. And then when we asked them if they had already participated in citizen science events before, many said yes, but they were almost all mentioning beach cleaning activity or some other volunteering work without any component of generating data or science behind it. We then did the SWOT analysis with them, which is an adaptation of the SWOT analysis, meaning strengths, challenges, opportunities, and threats. And although we had more than 100 participants, their answers were pretty much the same. So it was very easy to reach conclusions. We figured out that for Portuguese educators, for those participating, the biggest strength for them is their personal motivation to participate in projects like this, and the fact that they believe that the world needs kids and adults to be more well educated towards these themes. They find that this is very important for them. And they also find that opportunities in their environment are related to the partnerships that they create with external stakeholders, the collaborations that they have with their colleagues, and the motivation of students. On the other hand, they feel like the weaknesses or threats to their implementation of citizen science in their school is obviously the same answer, which is lack of time because of the extensive curriculum that they have to deliver. And they also find that is a weakness when they cannot find colleagues to collaborate with, when they don't have support from external partners, or when their students are actually not motivated. So we understand from this that us that work in citizen science projects have a lot to do to support them into integrating more of this in their education. But luckily enough, there are very specific actions that we can do. So we can, for example, support them in establishing partnerships with external stakeholders, which is something we are doing here in OTTERS. We can provide professional development opportunities, and within these actions, we can promote collaboration among the colleagues. We can create awareness campaigns that not only inspire the educators, but also the students to be more motivated to engage in these activities, especially for students to believe that they can make the difference. This is what motivates them. And we, on the part of citizen science projects, we can all hold hands and advocate for better policies that help to promote the integration of citizen science into the school's curriculum. After this, we had a co-creation session with them, a very short and brief one, where they picked a citizen science campaign existing near their school. And together in a group, they define which subject domains that you see here in blue can be taught through this campaign, which curriculum content can be taught through the campaign, how their students can contribute to the campaign, and how the campaign can contribute to their students' learning. And then in the end, they wrote just one sentence to say how we can actually implement this campaign in our school. This was just a preliminary co-creation session. We will share these results with all the citizen science campaigns that they have selected to promote collaboration among them. We have a full report, so whoever wants the report, please feel free to write in the chat or to send me an email. I'm very happy to share with you. And then by the end, we made an evaluation where we asked them how they were feeling about continuing to implement OTTERS in their school and in their practice. Some of them use a Mentimeter to generate a word cloud that you can see here. Many of them are very motivated, excited, enthusiastic, and the others just put an emoji on the chat showing how they were feeling. In the end, 106 participants asked to be further involved in the OTTERS activities. So this shows that there is a great motivation in education for this kind of activities, especially when they are related to the environment, and in this case, to the water domain. Next to this, we will do the same activities in other countries. We have a webinar coming up tomorrow, with everyone is invited to register. We have amazing speakers that will be with us tomorrow. I will put this link on the chat as well if anyone here wants to register. We have the OTTERS Summer School coming up, as Garabet mentioned. This is a summer school in Greece that gathers teachers from many countries in joint training activities, but not only just training activities, they also go to visit the Acropolis and Cape Sunio, so it's a whole cultural experience. And we are lucky to have OTTERS represented there with a full week of training for teachers. Within this training, teachers will come up with a plan to involve more schools in the project and to implement the project within their schools. So to start the pilot activities. And these activities will mean further engagement sessions, co-creating with teachers, teacher trainings and professional development, developing projects in schools where the students are actually participating actively in citizen science campaigns and involving their communities. And we are very much open to collaborate with other citizen science projects and other people interested to contribute to this work. So here you have my email, so you can send me an email in case you want to share your work or contribute in any way. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Priscila, for this wonderful presentation. It was very engaging. At least you convinced me to participate and to join. I will share my screen now, and I would like to present you the OTTERS toolkit, one of the three that Garabet mentioned earlier. So please let me know if you can see it. Everything should be on the screen now. Great, thank you. So as Valerie said earlier, one of the aims of the OTTERS project is to promote societal transformation for marine and freshwater stewardship through scaling up citizen science. With the help of our stakeholders, which run from teachers, policymakers, freshwater and marine experts, we will co-design campaigns that will foster a sense of agency in water stewardship. So we prepared 3 co-creation toolkits, and in Italy, Portugal, and Armenia, and this will be our pilot sites that will help any interested stakeholder organize and run a co-creation session. The results of the co-creation sessions will be the base of the OTTERS Citizen Science Toolkit, which will contain targeted messages for different local challenges and for different types of stakeholders. And this will be the basis of the OTTERS campaign, which aims to change people's hearts and minds. So as you can see here now on the screen, this that what I'm presenting now, it is the OTTERS co-creation toolkit for Italy. We have a similar one for Portugal and another one for Armenia, focusing on different local challenges. And we aim to publish a final citizen science toolkit next year in June. And this, as I said earlier, will be will form the base for creating the campaigns. And now here are some steps on how we can co-design a campaign. So 6 simple steps to read the OTTERS toolkit, to run an online or offline co-creation campaign event, to capture all the answers, send them to us. We will include them in the toolkit with messages and visuals that will be shared with all of you, and you can use them in your campaigns. I will not go through the tips for creating a co-creation event. You can read them. And for Italy, we focused on floating litter. There are many issues, but based on the project that we analyzed, we noticed that this is a common issue in many places. For an easier navigation in the toolkit, we created the table of contents. So and now what is the problem? We noticed through several research studies and publications that the Mediterranean Sea is considered one of the areas which is most polluted by plastic. And plastic pollution can cause severe environmental damage. So we need to address this at a societal level. Different studies that took place in Italy highlighted the amount of plastic that enters into the Mediterranean Sea annually. For example, 145 tons of plastic goes into the Mediterranean Sea annually, which is huge, is absolutely huge. So we need to act now. Here are some photos of the actual problem. European Commission is working, is implementing, is creating policies. There are local policies, there are national policies, but are the policies enough by themselves, or we should also do something? And yes, we should get involved. We should roll up our sleeves and do something. So can citizen science help? Yes, it can help because it is a collaborative effort where members of the general public contribute to scientific research. And one of the aims, as mentioned earlier, of the OTTERS project is to scale up citizen science and foster this sense of agency in water stewardship. There are several citizen science approaches, and thank you for already sending some of them in the chat. I already opened them. They are interesting. They are very nice. Some of them are in Italy, some of them are not in Italy, are at European level, are in Portugal, which is great, and it's very, very interesting. Here are presented four. These are just as an example. It is not an exhaustive list, so you can check them online. We will send you the toolkit, and there are links to these platforms. And in order to kickstart this, so to involve all of you, we need your thoughts, we need your opinions on all these things. So in this toolkit, in order to help you, because if you might want to run a co-creation campaign, we included here some questions for if you will run it with individuals. If you will run it, for example, with different kind of projects, then the questions are slightly different. You will send us the results of the questions, and we will include them, we will analyze them, and we will include them in the final toolkit, and we will create tailored messages that will actually be the basis of will form the basis of the campaign. We will go through slides in a couple of minutes, but I want to finish presenting you the toolkit first, so you just have an idea. What can we do as next steps? Ideally, we should have a circular economy. So we need to design waste from the start and not to wait to happen and then to wonder, okay, now we have too much waste, what shall we do? So ideally, we should purchase items, for example, like backpacks or sunglasses, which are made from recycled plastic. So small things that we all can do and will make a huge difference in the end. Here are some messages and visuals that you can all use when running a co-creation session. These are, for example, for citizens, but you can change them, and these are for the public authorities. If you need any kind of help, you can drop us a line, and we'll be happy to support you with your local needs. This is the OTTERS Consortium. These are the partners, and these are our social media accounts where you can find us and contact us. And now it would be great if we could go to Slido. So I will share now with you now the screen. You should still see my screen. So if you go to slido.com and enter the code on your mobiles, go to slido.com and enter 179929, or I will share with you the link on chat. It might be easier for some of you. So this should be the link. So these are two options. You can use either the link that is in the chat now, or go to Slido. And I will ask you 3 questions. So just to hear your thoughts, just to know what you think. What are your opinions on this? So now you should see the screen. Okay, Slido is. So what are the biggest water-related challenges in your area? Loss of biodiversity. Okay. Yes, and the answer, all the answers will be anonymous, so we will not see them. We will not see who will post what. Pollution. Okay, river pollution, plastic everywhere. Seaweed. Okay, this is a very, very interesting one, because in fact the Portugal toolkit focuses on seaweeds and plastic in the beaches. So plastic on the beach, yes. These are very, very nice. River pollution. Yes, again, pollution. Human behavior, jellyfishes. Yes, this is very, very interesting. Very interesting answers. So our toolkit from Italy focuses on plastic in rivers. The one from Portugal focuses on litter on the beaches and plastic. And the one from Armenia focuses on Lake Sevan and wastewater. Yes, these are very, very interesting answers. Because I see no one. Okay, we have another participant typing. So let's see the answer, and then we can go to the next question. So how could future citizen science projects help solve water-related challenges? What is your opinion on this? Raise awareness, okay. Put political pressure, change the EU policy. Very, very nice answers. Involving citizens in the research, raise awareness, which is what hopefully we will do with authors. Collecting more valuable data. Yes, this is also one of the questions related to data that we have in for the project. So in case your target audience are projects, we have a question on data. Inform politicians, policies and laws. Yes, put pressure on politicians. Local residents become more engaged. Improve awareness again. Scientifically report on pollution. Yes, to local policy makers. Increase policy compliance, involve the citizens. Yes, so more or less, as you can see, all the answers are around the same thing. So involving citizens, putting pressure on politicians, raising awareness. So we have the same things. Yes, we have. And then one last question. We have, what would you propose as next steps for reducing, in this case, for example, the floating litter from the rivers? What do you think it would be the most effective action? Face-to-face activities, actually cleaning, applications that will monitor. Okay, I've seen litter in this river, and what did I do? I picked it up. Or local promotion, or better policies. What do you think it would work the best? Monitoring, okay. This could be done, I think, through an app, for example. So face-to-face activities. In the Portugal toolkit, we have some very nice example of projects that are face-to-face activities of cleaning the beaches. Local actions, yes, with schools. This is a very nice one because we can also involve schools and raise awareness. Engagement in cleaning and awareness, getting rid of plastic. Yes, so here we need a circular economy. So maybe thinking from the beginning, what can we do with the waste in case there is plastic? Better litter management, more bins, more fun. Yeah, this is interesting. But I'm thinking that if there are more bins, maybe should be recyclable bins, because this will encourage more recycling rather than having a general bin, bigger one. This will not include. So it is a very nice point, this one as well. Showing the problem to people and working to engage them directly. Yes, so we need to show them the problem and the consequences that will have on future generations, as this will actually maybe trigger something. Shipping the collected litter to households, okay. Better education, yes. So we need to involve students, we need to involve teachers. Researching the hotspots, working with local champions, yes, definitely. So we need local support as well as national support, and as well as EU support through policies. So local support maybe can start from actual face-to-face activities, reaching to EU level support in terms of policies. And I see there is another person too typing. Disseminate results, yes, from citizen science. Yeah, so we really need to raise awareness on how citizen science can help and decision making involved, yes. So involving decision makers and policy makers. Wow, these are really, really nice answers. Thank you all. We will use them. We will go back to analyze them, all of them. We will analyze the answers from our other co-creation sessions that will be held, and then we will come back with targeted messages for targeted problems, because there are common problems as we can see from the answers, and common solutions somehow. Generating support for the Global Plastic Treaty, yeah. So this is all from my side. If you have any kind of questions, please feel free. And thank you once again for all these great answers and for your contributions.
Thank you very much to our speakers. Those are very informative presentations and also really engaging. And I also want to say thanks to our participants, because we've been getting such great chat there in this box with examples of citizen science projects. So thank you very much for sharing that. And I hear that some of the presenters will carry on the discussion outside of this event. So please do use the Q&A to post any questions, or if you're more comfortable using the chat, go ahead and do that. We'd love to hear some questions. In the meantime, what I might do is just kind of recap some of the key messages that I've really heard, and that would be starting with getting adoption of the technical standards in citizen science projects so as to also help us collectively reach targets such as the Sustainable Development Goals, CBD goals, and EU Green Deal, so on and so forth. That makes a lot of sense. Why not capitalize on all that great data that's being collected to help us to monitor and quantify how we're reaching our targets? Another key takeaway was to get these findings, results, and contributions in front of decision makers' eyes, so as to have real impact, and so that decision makers can take more, or also be held a little bit more accountable for the decisions they make and how they're going to further develop or improve our current legislation and regulations. Maybe that's me adding a little bit more than what was said here, but taking a little bit step further. The importance of not losing all of this valuable data collected just because a project has ended or funding has ended. That's a really valid point. We keep seeing this over and over again kind of happening. And then I was also struck by some of the comments, I think it was you that made, Priscilla, in terms of we don't know what the future kind of holds for a lot of our younger generations in terms of what the job sectors are going to look like, what skills are going to be needed, how are we going to interact too with all of this new technology coming on board, especially AI and whatnot. And students hence having a lot of insecurities or maybe concerns about how they can best prepare themselves adequately for their future. And as you mentioned, citizen science is a really great vehicle for helping the youth to get hands-on experience and get involved with some of the topics that touch them at heart, which I also saw on one of your very first slides, Garabet, when you say, you know, changing hearts and minds, I think it was. So let me see. Okay, we've got one question that's come in, and I also have a few questions I've written down. So let me just go to that question. So we have here, it's from an anonymous person that says, if you're a citizen running a citizen science project and are not doing it through a formal NGO or research project, do you have any recommendations for applying for funding? Where, who, how, and at what level? That's an open question to any of you.
I could try it too, yeah. So depending on what kind of citizen science project it is and where, there are small level funding opportunities in particular geographic areas that are popping up all the time. So whether it's marine, you might want to send information to Georgios or Garabet, or if it's freshwater, send information to myself. And as funding opportunities come up, sometimes they're part of a consortium, but sometimes they're individual funding opportunities. Let us know, and we'll keep you in the loop.
Maybe also to add to what Stephen said, not an immediate solution now, but down the line, establishing these regional umbrella campaigns would be a very nice way to engage in a broader region scope. So you might live in a town or a village where there's not necessarily something within your vicinity, you know, citizen science project, but then you can always tie into a bigger region citizen science project if there are these initiatives established. So again, at this point, since we haven't done any of these umbrella campaigns yet, maybe that's a bit premature to already go for that approach, but down the line, if some of these projects become successful, I think that would open up an opportunity for a lot of people, especially in some maybe smaller scale rural areas where they don't necessarily have any projects in their vicinity, to engage in the bigger community within that watershed.
And
if I may, go ahead, Stephen. Yeah.
No, if I can just add one thing. As a citizen, if you're running a citizen science project, that's great. The most powerful projects, speaking from a freshwater point of view, are ones that involve more than one person. So especially when you're talking about a river or a lake or something that has a catchment, whether large or small, the biggest impact comes from people monitoring together or people participating together. Also from a political point of view, if there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 people involved, then it starts to get much more attention from the regulatory agencies, from the press and everything else. So and there's so many of these projects going on through river trusts, through associations, through larger groups, that sometimes it might be possible for you to join one of them, but depending where you are and what you're talking about. So
Or there might be, for example, every now and then there are the European projects. There are, I'm in general, I don't know any specific European project, but some of them do have open calls that are targeted towards citizens or that are targeted toward projects. So then if you follow these kinds of mailing lists or the mailing lists of several projects, again, I cannot recommend a project, a specific project, but this might be another opportunity and another option.
Yes, Laura, that's kind of what I was going to share as well, because the EU does recognize the importance of community involvement. Hence, they've just launched a call that's called community-led actions. And what it is basically it's going to be a call where there will be some maybe bigger organizations that will bid for the proposal, but it will be an opportunity to give cascade funding to local communities for such, citizen science ventures and other community-led restoration projects, maybe of a coastal habitat that they live near or something like this. So there's going to be more and more of these opportunities coming in the coming year. So definitely keep an eye on that because there will be more funding available. So I will move on then to a question I have, which was, what challenges have been encountered in the implementation of the uptake and adoption of using standards, and how are they being addressed? That's to anyone.
Okay, I'll go first because everyone's being so silent. It's been there's some challenges if someone's been doing a citizen science with a particular methodology and a particular database for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 years. It's problematic to ask for big changes. So the idea isn't that we should be standardizing all the approaches, all the databases, but we should be creating the infrastructure, let's say the informational infrastructure that allows us to make these comparable and integratable. So that sometimes for smaller projects is a problem because they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the scientific help to do so, or they don't have the IT help to do so. So that's a project like OTTERS is an opportunity because we're bringing things together in a methodological sense. So there is some resistance if someone's been doing the same thing for 5 years to say, okay, now you need to put this in a different manner. There's just some natural inclination to say no. But when they see the possibility of integrating information and having that information being taken up by an agency or by a government, then their approach changes. So I think working together, people tend to open up more once they see the benefits of this kind of collaboration.
Also, maybe to add, when we talk about standardization within the water domain, obviously the water domain is very broad. So on one hand, we talk about standardization, but we also have to think about the uniqueness of the data we're creating and what we're measuring. Are we talking about litter data? Are we talking about invertebrate data? Are we talking about vegetation data? Are we talking about physical parameters, temperature, etc.? Are we talking about biological parameters? So yes, we can talk about standardization as a general umbrella term, but once we get into the details, we see how diverse even the metadata is. So the challenges is on one hand to standardize, but on the other hand to standardize in a meaningful way where data is also not lost through the creeks, so that we don't lose valuable information while we're standardizing everything. So there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of discussions to be had with experts, with communities, and so on to find the exact right approach. It's not something that could be done easily or in a very short amount of time. And that's why we always say we don't want to create a new standard. We want to have these discussions to look into the standards and maybe promote some of the better ones that can, be adopted on a larger scale as much as possible. But again, it's not a black and white issue.
Thank you. Just seeing if anybody else wants to contribute. Not to get too techy, because I want to kind of get back to the citizen science or the people aspect, but I'm curious, because there is so much data that we are sitting on that has been captured through citizen science, and that kind of, like you were pointing to, has been kind of perhaps forgotten. How might we go back and capitalize on this data so that we don't lose it? And what role might AI play in all of this too?
That's a very difficult question. Yeah, I guess it depends where the data is, if it's accessible or not. Again, like I mentioned in my presentation, if it sits on somebody's laptop or hard disk or totally offline, it's very difficult to access it. If it's somewhere but it's not standardized, there might be efforts to see how it could be transferred into, transferring the metadata at least into making it more interoperable and uploading it to other repositories like EmoteNet. I don't know, Stephen, if you've been involved in a lot of projects like this. I don't know if you've had any experience into looking into previous data that was measured in a different way.
Yeah, well, in fact, we're doing so right now, so that there is there was in Africa, for example, in Kenya, there's a lot of data done by what we would term now citizen science, but was not termed in the beginning, and unfortunately it's sitting on not just one but several computers, and from 2012 on, and unfortunately one of those computers broke. So from 2012 to 2000, I think 17 or something, that was just permanently lost. But there's an effort now by the UN through a very small program, but to get the remaining data and put it on a parallel database to the Freshwater Watch using the same kind of standards and metadata. So with a relatively limited amount of funding, we're bringing data from citizen scientists that was sitting on a computer or on pieces of paper, and also most recently, and creating an app that they can continue to gather data that will then be follow a more standard, robust approach. So there are opportunities out there. If this is data that is extremely valuable because it was the only data monitoring many of these water bodies. So there is, we're not talking lots of money either to get it, to get 5 or 6 years of data from across the country onto a database where the government as well as everyone else can explore it. So as far as AI is being used in several projects as ways to improve quality control, including in the Freshwater Watch. But also the future will be AI also interpreting pictures. So it's good for citizen scientists to be uploading data and taking measurements, but it's also AI applied to photo documentation is also very useful, and can also be used to look at past data. So where people have photo documented the conditions of something, a river, perhaps a beach or something, you can also on a regular basis, as citizen scientists do presently, you can use that information and extrapolate out things that either to check what citizen scientists are recording or to get new information that isn't easily gathered. So, and there's been projects in the past and present projects that are looking into that. So I hope that answered your question. It's kind of all over the place as an answer. Valerie, sorry.
Thank you. It's very good. Yeah, so what we're going to wrap up now. So what are your hopes for OTTERS then going forward in terms of the project? And also we have a question from Natalie Fox in terms of how the audience can get in touch with you and the speakers.
I think we'll be more than happy to get in touch with Natalie. And especially that I've seen from the chat that she is working in a project in Portugal, and we have a toolkit for Portugal, which focuses on litter on the beaches. So it would be great if she can reach to Priscila or to me or to us through the website. So we will take it from there.
I left my email on the chat, so anyone who wants to contact me, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, there's also a contact us page on the website. If you send us an email via that page, we will receive it and get back to you. But if you want to get in contact with any of the speakers, everybody's putting their email addresses in the chat, so feel free to do so.
And what's kind of the hopes then? Is there OTTERS goes till when? When does it finish, the project?
We have about a year left.
A year, okay.
So we have quite a rich roadmap ahead. We want to co-design a lot of these umbrella projects, get them running to also get feedback. As Priscila mentioned, we have the summer school happening starting in 5 days, on the 30th of June, where we will have a number of teachers coming from different countries around Europe to get the training of how to incorporate citizen science as a project-based learning within their school curricula, if they're teaching biology, chemistry, or any relevant topic. And then, for instance, what we want to do in Armenia is we want to get these teachers back after they're trained in the summer school and help them organize workshops locally within Armenia to other teachers. So it will be the teachers teaching other teachers how to do that. And then get feedback from them all once they start implementing these. Again, all of these will go into the final toolkits after we see what's really working well, what's not really working well. The whole idea is to develop some sort of a toolkit or a data hub on the European Citizen Science Association's website, where a lot of these materials, the best practices, everything is there in an easy to find way. So if anyone wants to design a project like this, wants to integrate citizen science into school curricula, do any of this thing, there will be very easy to follow guides. You know, if you want to use the standards for this particular type of project, these are the links. If you want to do it for education, these are all the information you want. I also linked the link to the 3 white papers in the chat if anybody wants to read them. These are all open calls. Each of the white papers is for a particular topic. So there's the freshwater that Stephen already presented for the Water Framework Directive and the Freshwater SDG 6. And then there's the marine one, and then the third one is for riparian vegetation. So if there are any experts who want to look into these, contribute more, etc., it's an open call to become a co-author on the final publication. The drafts are already on Zenodo, they're open access. Anybody could read them, send us their comments, send us their willingness to contribute in any form, maybe add a paragraph, edit it, etc. And then by the end of the project in a year, we want to publish the final versions. So there is the possibility to have more co-authors, whoever wants to join. If you're doing similar work, we would love to have your feedback there. I hope I didn't forget anything. If I did, then my colleagues could maybe add.
Okay, thank you very much. So I hear that the tools are not yet there, but they are coming, correct? So they'll be uploaded maybe in a year's time or less?
So the white papers are public. The toolkits that Laura presented will be public very, very soon because
Wonderful.
They're almost final. And then the workshops that Priscila has been organizing with teachers in Portugal now will be replicated by us in different countries. And I suppose, once we get also some feedback to make them, the better versions, these will also be public. I don't know, Priscila, maybe you can give a better timeline than I can on this.
No, I think you are right. One of the most important parts of OTTERS is the co-creation factor. Instead of us creating something and delivering, involving people in the making process is what ensures that we are accommodating their needs and that it will be actually useful for them. So this means that this is not a project that delivers everything in the beginning. You know, it's a process. So we have a lot of data, but it needs to be tested, validated. We need more data to be co-created, but everything will be there. By the end of the project, at least everything will be fully available.
Exactly. Just to echo what Priscila said, it is work in progress and everything will be there up and running until the end of the project. So as soon as we have something new, we upload it on the project website. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes, co-creation is critical. Thank you very much to all of our presenters, speakers here now today. And thank you very much to the audience for your participation and questions. And yeah, we're really honored to have you all here. And we look forward to the outputs there in the tools. We'll check back in 6 months, a year's time. Thank you.
Valerie,
Thank you.